Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Week 1 predictions for the 2018-2019 NFL season. Well, everybody, I am excited to be back for another year of NFL predictions. It's been a long 7 months for me to get back to this point, though there's been a lot of football news going on with stuff about the combine, the draft, free agency, certain moves, and other football stories have been able to help carry through to this point. But it is very exciting to be back doing my yearly predictions, and this will be the fourth year I've done predictions on this channel, the Matt the NFL Fanatic channel, and overall this will be my 10th season, so my decade anniversary. So excited about that for doing picks in general. So for everybody watching, thank you for watching. I really take a lot of time and I study as much as I can about the season, as much as possible, and I really enjoy and I really appreciate everybody that watches my predictions. And as I've said for the last couple of years, and I will say it again this year, if you don't like my thoughts or my predictions on certain games, or you have anything hateful or non-constructive about my picks or analysis, go to another channel. There are plenty of other people that make YouTube predictions about the NFL. Go to them and watch them and see if you like them. Or if you are emboldened enough, make your own predictions and see how people respond to you. So, yeah, for anybody out there that has any non-constructive or any hateful comments towards me or my predictions, yeah, just watch somebody else or make your own videos at your own leisure. All right, but it is exciting, and before I go into my picks, I will once again let everybody know that I'm going to do, for the second year this year, I will be doing against the spread picks along with my straight up picks. I will put the against the spread picks in the description of my box and also the website where I get my against the spread predictions. So as they update through the week, I will give you the site to look at those. Let's see. Two other things. I wanted to let everybody know that with my school schedule this year, I'll be going a lot of different places, and certain days where I would like to make videos, I might not be able to, or just when I have time to make videos, I might not have as much time to give as much analysis, but I will do my best, and I will make sure to make a video every week before all the games start. And if anybody has any questions, please put them in the comments section. I'll be gladly to respond to anybody that has any questions or wants any deeper analysis. And one last thing, for the last couple of years, if people have watched, I'd love to make a Super Bowl prediction to go into this season before it starts. Last year, I believe I said the Patriots and Packers were going to make the Super Bowl. I was right with one half, though with the other half of Aaron Rodgers breaking his collarbone, not once but twice, it basically, or well, once, and then they lost the one game and put him back in the IR. With that in mind, I'm going to try to make another one, and hopefully I'm more successful. So for my Super Bowl 53 prediction in Atlanta in February of 19, my prediction is going to be a rematch of this past year's Super Bowl. I have the New England Patriots playing the Philadelphia Eagles in Atlanta for Super Bowl 53. I feel confident with New England just because of how the AFC is. And it's kind of one of those consistent standard bearers. While in the NFC, I'm going to take the Eagles. I know Nick Foles is starting week 1, and you don't know when Carson's going to get back. But I think Carson, even if they go 1-1, he gets back by week 3 or 4, they should be good enough. And I look at all those other teams, and even though some of them are very formidable opponents, I'm going to trust the Eagles have kept a majority of their roster. They have confidence, they have unity, and I think they are going to be able to live up to the challenge to get back to the Super Bowl and play the Patriots again. However, with what I've seen out of New England's defense, I know New England doesn't have that much of a receiving core, but I trust Brady in that system enough. I do think, for my prediction this year, I will have the Patriots beating the Eagles this time in Super Bowl 53 to get redemption for the game they had last year. So that is my prediction for Super Bowl 53 right now. The Patriots will play the Eagles once again in Atlanta, and they will win in a redemption aspect. All right, so time for my picks and thoughts on each game for the opening week of football. So on Thursday, when for the opening game, when the Atlanta Falcons go to Lincoln Financial Field to play the Philadelphia Eagles, the defending, reigning, undisputed Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles are 2.5-point favorites in this game right now. I am going to take the Atlanta Falcons plus 2.5 and Atlanta straight up. And then on Sunday, the first opening Sunday of the year, when the Pittsburgh Steelers go to the Cleveland Browns for the second consecutive year. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 5.5-point favorites in this game. I like Pittsburgh here, minus 5.5, and Pittsburgh straight up. Then the next game, when the Cincinnati Bengals go to Lucas Oil Stadium to take on the Indianapolis Colts in Andrew Luck's first start since the week 17 of the 2016 season. He's been out for over a year now, and it's been almost 18 calendar months since he's been able to throw a football. So it's a big opportunity, a big moment for Indianapolis and the Colts franchise. I'm going to take Indianapolis here minus 3 and Indianapolis straight up. Then the next game, and one of the more non-impressive games of the weekend, when the Tennessee Titans go to the Miami Dolphins. The Titans are 1-point favorites in this game. I like the Titans here minus 1 and Tennessee straight up. Then the next game, one of the bigger matchups of the weekend, it's a young, youthful team versus one of the top 4 NFC Super Bowl contenders, in my opinion, when the San Francisco 49ers travel to the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings are 6-point favorites in this game. I like San Francisco here plus 6, but I'm going to take the Vikings here straight up. Then the next game, in a rematch of Week 3 of last year, and one of the more thrilling games of the NFL season, it'll be the Houston Texans going back to the New England Patriots for Week 1. The New England Patriots are 6.5-point favorites in this game. I like New England here, minus 6.5, and New England straight up. Then the next game, when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers go to the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans Saints are 9.5-point favorites in this game. I like New Orleans here, minus 9.5, and New Orleans straight up. Then the next game, in one of the great and probably the best wide receiver cornerback matchup everybody will look forward to this weekend, when the Jalen Ramsey-led Jacksonville Jaguars go to MetLife Stadium to take on the Odell Beckham Jr. returning New York Giants. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 3-point favorites in this game. I like Jacksonville here, minus 3, and Jacksonville straight up. Then the next game, when the Buffalo Bills go to the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens are 7-point favorites in this game. I like Buffalo here plus 7. I know that might be an unpopular pick, especially with some of the news that came out just today with the Bills announcing that second-year quarterback out of Pitt, Nathan Peterman, is starting. I know that might be an unpopular pick. You might be going, Matt, you're giving Nathan Peterman the Bills too much credit. I know, but it's Baltimore, and I'll talk about it. But it's Baltimore's offense, and we're a defensive-led team, and I think we should be able to win this game, but I don't think we're going to put up that many points against the Bills' defense, which has some pretty good talent around it. So I'm going to take the Bills here plus 7, but Baltimore straight up. Then the next game, when the Kansas City Chiefs go to the Los Angeles Chargers. The LA Chargers are 3-point favorites in this game. I like the LA Chargers here, minus 3, and the LA Chargers straight up. Then the next game, when the Seattle Seahawks go to the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos are 3-point favorites in this game. I am going to take a little bit of a risk here. I know it's Seattle on the road. It's Seattle's Legion of Boom basically decimated, but I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks here in an upset. Seattle plus 3 and Seattle straight up. Then the next game, in my opinion, probably the most evenly matched game of the weekend, when the Washington Redskins go to Arizona to take on the Arizona Cardinals. This is a pick'em game, and I am going to take the Washington Redskins to win this game. And I'll explain more into that, but I'm going to take Washington to take against the spread and straight up over the Arizona Cardinals. Then the next game, when the Dallas Cowboys go to the Bank of America Stadium, take on the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers are 2.5-point favorites in this game. I'm going to take Carolina minus 2.5 and Carolina straight up. And if there was any lock pick of the week this week, it would probably be this one against Dallas. I have that much confidence in over Carolina over Dallas. And then the final 3 games on Sunday night to open the Sunday night season, the Chicago Bears are going to Lambeau to play the Green Bay Packers and to reignite one of the oldest rivalry in the NFL. The Green Bay Packers are 7.5-point favorites in this game. I'm going to take Chicago plus 7.5, but I'm going to take Green Bay straight up. And then the 2 Monday night games. In Sam Darnold's first game on primetime television, the Jets and him are traveling to Detroit to take on Matt Stafford and the Lions. The Lions are 6.5-point favorites in this game. I like Detroit here minus 6.5 and Detroit straight up. And finally, to cap the whole week off, on Monday, September 10th, it'll be John Gruden's first game in 10 years since Week 17 of the 2008 season when he hosts the Sean McVay, Jared Goff, Aaron Donald-led Rams coming to town. The Rams are 5-point favorites in this game. I like the LA Rams here minus 5 and the LA Rams straight up. All right, so time for my thoughts on each game. Atlanta over Philadelphia. Okay, this was a really hard game for me to pick because I, was interested to see how Carson Wentz's recovery was going through his ACL tear. I actually thought he was going to be able to get cleared by week 1, but today they officially announced that Nick Foles is starting week 1 of this for week 1, the opening game on Thursday night against Atlanta. And Nick Foles, the Super Bowl MVP, I think they said the 8th backup quarterback to win the Super Bowl, or a little bit lower than that, on one of his highs that way. He also got a big contract extension, which is huge for him, or not an extension, a contract raise for him. If he had played a decent preseason, I probably would have taken Philadelphia to win this game because I would have trusted that Nick Foles was carrying over the momentum from the NFC Championship game of Super Bowl into the next season. I've seen him play. He injured his shoulder against the Patriots and looked absolutely overwhelmed. I know what Eagle fans are going to say. Well, they didn't have Peters, they didn't have Kelsey, and they didn't have their line. Yeah, but then when most of their offense, and Doug Peterson said this a couple weeks ago on Thursday, August 23rd, after the game when you lost to the Browns 5-0, the entire offense didn't do that well. And I did not see anything out of Nick Foles that gave me the confidence to say that, he can beat the Falcons again. And they're not going to have Alshon Jeffrey, who is dealing with a shoulder injury himself. He's coming off a surgery for that, though he's not on the PUP. So he should be able to be back from what I've heard from week 3 to 4. But he's not going to play. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles, Jay Ajayi, he's dealing with a back injury. And the Eagles secondary, they're really putting a lot on Sidney Jones. And I hope he does well. But that secondary, besides Malcolm Jenkins, is still not that impressive to me. Though they added some decent additions on the defensive line. They added Michael Bennett. They added Haloti Ngata to add rotation. They drafted Dallas Goedert, who I think Zach Ertz and Goddard are going to be a very good tight end duo. You have Sheldon Gibson, who may emerge as a big threat. And this Eagles team is very, well functioning. But with how Nick Foles has played, I can't take them to win this game. Because I look at Atlanta, they re-signed Matt Ryan. They re-signed Jake Matthews. They re-signed Ricardo Allen. Basically, that entire Atlanta core, they gave Julio Jones some more money, which is big for the Falcons there. Yeah, so Julio Jones got a little extra money, and that Falcons team is basically still intact. And I look at that Falcons team across the board, especially at quarterback, and they have Freeman and Coleman coming back. You do have to worry about Devontae Freeman's history of concussions. Last year, he suffered 2 of them. But I look at that Atlanta team, and I see a more complete team. And I'm going to trust the Atlanta Falcons to try to win this game. I know the Falcons over the last couple years have not been that successful in Philadelphia. They've been in close games like this. But I just look at the Atlanta Falcons. They're motivated knowing how close they were last year. They were the best team, really, to play the Eagles the entire postseason. Because really, even the Patriots, that was a game that the Eagles basically had in control They really never lost control of the game. Even if you could argue, okay, well, they lost the lead 33-32, but the Eagles were moving the ball up and down the field. Well, I don't think they're going to do that as much against this Falcons defense, which is basically still intact. And I'm not going to trust Nick Foles to play as good of a game. And I don't think this Eagles defense will be able to hold the Atlanta Falcons as few points as they did. I think the Falcons can put up about 24 points, and that should be enough against this Eagles team that I don't think Nick Foles can match. It will be a very good game. It's going to be a big atmosphere. Philadelphia's going to be motivated. We could see Jeffrey Lurie coming out with the trophy, or Meek Mill. I'd probably have both of them come out together holding the trophy, and they're all going to be motivated. But we all thought that last year when the Patriots, just this time last year, when the Patriots came out and the Chiefs ended up putting up one of the most impressive opening day performances and ruining the whole party. And I see that same way with the Falcons this year. They're motivated, they're more talented, and they have more of a stable and competent team right now than what the Eagles have with Nick Foles as their quarterback. Eagle fans are going to be happy because, you know what? They get to put those underdog masks back on. And people like me that, they're like, oh, you're doubting us again. Yeah, you know what? I will eat my Eagle, and I will give you guys credit next week when I do my video if you beat the Atlanta Falcons, with how Nick Foles has played, with the injuries you're dealing with, and just kind of how the Eagles staff, the management has been kind of reacting, especially Doug Peterson yesterday. I'm going to take the Atlanta Falcons here. Just seem to be more firm and steady ground going into the opening game Thursday night. So that's why I like Atlanta here plus 2.5. But this is why I like Atlanta here plus 2.5 and straight up. The next game, Pittsburgh over Cleveland. This is one of those games that Cleveland this offseason has really tried to rejuvenate their offense and defense. They brought in Baker Mayfield, the number 1 overall pick from the University of Oklahoma. They brought in Tyrod Taylor for a 3rd-round pick from the Buffalo Bills. Jarvis Landry was brought over. Josh Gordon is returning to the team. You have David Njoku still there. You have Myles Garrett. They drafted Denzel Ward. They have Antonio Callaway, who could be decent if he can go through his own off-the-field issues. You have Carlos Hyde and Nick Chubb running the ball. They do have one big hole in trying to replace Joe Thomas, who will not be there for the first time in 11 years. But this Cleveland Browns team, they have decent talent across the board, from Jabril Peppers, Denzel Ward, Joe Shorbit. There we go. That's his name. Christian Kirksey, Jamie Collins. This is a decent Browns team. And for the first time since 2007, you can actually genuinely look at this Browns team and look at them as an 8 to 9 win team, which I believe is the number that Hugh Jackson needs to reach in order to save his job. Because any Browns fans that want to go, oh yeah, we went 5-11, we went 6-10. That's not good enough for me. That means you're still losers. That means you still have a losing record. And at this point, if you're going 3 straight years of losing records, you should change your name from the Cleveland Browns to Cleveland 76ers and basically start saying trust the process, which I've never been a big fan of that either. So, again, Hugh Jackson for me this year at least needs to get 8 wins to show that he's not a loser and get to 500. But you look at this Browns team, and they're trying to be motivated. But while all this optimism and all this new talent has come into the team, I look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, and though they're going through their own issues, they're not going to have Ryan Shazier, who's still dealing with that spinal injury he suffered against Cincinnati. Le'Veon Bell is not there, and he's not there today for the first day of practice. And who knows if he's if he's going to show up for the first game? We don't know about that. You have basically Juju and Antonio basically trying to, reshuffle the offense with the new offensive coordinator, Randy Fickman, the quarterback coach, who's been there for several years. And this Steeler team has gone through just a lot of ups and downs, and they're still trying to get over not only the New England wall, but the Jacksonville barrier they put up with how Jacksonville's played over the last couple of years. As much as people, want to root for Cleveland and all that, and as much as maybe, it would be a nice gutsy pick to, go with the upstart Browns. And you can even go, remember last year, Matt, their first game, even with Deshaun Kaiser, who's now the backup in Green Bay, they almost beat them by 3 points. Yeah, that's the key word. Almost. And this is the one thing about Ben Roethlisberger and his team. They're pretty much consistent. I think James Conner and the other couple running backs they have, I think James Conner can do enough to run behind this line at a good rate. I think the Steelers have way too many offensive weapons for the Browns corners to deal with. They traded away Jason McCourty. Uh, and I see this Pittsburgh team being able to grind out another game against the Cleveland Browns. I know Tyrod Taylor, he's an efficient quarterback. He's good, and he's good for this Browns team to try to get to a 509-7 record. This Steeler team, with the additions of Morgan Burnett, John Bostic, Terrell Edmonds, or no, I'm sorry, Tracy Edmonds. Terrell Edmonds is in Buffalo. Tracy Edmonds at safety. You still have Joe Hayden at corner. You still have a solid enough defense going up against this Browns offense that I feel like the Steelers should be able to pull out this victory. And I will always go back to one of these stats. Ben Roethlisberger in the state of Ohio, in both Cleveland and Cincinnati, has won more games in the city of Cleveland, Ohio, than the Cleveland Browns have since I believe since they've come back in '99. They've both won 10 games. I believe Ben Roethlisberger has won more than 10 games in Cleveland since he's been back, or since he's been there. It's going to be a good game. I know people are going to be motivated for the Browns, and also all those fans there want to get those free Bud Light beers that they've promoted. But I'm going to take Pittsburgh here. I'm going to trust that the Pittsburgh regime, even without Le'Veon Bell maybe not being 100% or motivated, even without Shazier, they should be able to put up a good enough defensive effort against the emerging Browns team to squash their momentum and keep the losing streak going for at least another week in a competitive AFC North game. So that's why I like Pittsburgh here, -5.5, and Pittsburgh straight up. The next game, the Colts over the Bengals. This is one where I basically am relying on Andrew Luck here. I know the Bengals overall predominantly have the better talented team. You have Andy Dalton getting some, decent weapons back. John Ross, he made a big play against Buffalo in the preseason that made you see that, flash potential to be effective. You do have that going for you. Then you have Tyler Eifert coming back at tight end. I think he won't be able to stay healthy because that's basically been Tyler Eifert's career. But you look at the Bengals, they have A.J. Green coming back. They brought back Michael Johnson. They brought back Carlos Dunlap on an extension. They brought back Geno Atkins on an extension. They lost Pac-Man, which is a little significant. So that secondary isn't going to be as effective, even though you could argue Pac-Man was just gone because of his age. And you look at that Bengal team, and they're more well-constructed overall than the Colts are. And you can even look at the fact that they traded for Cordy Glenn with Buffalo, which definitely helps their offensive line since they lost to Kevin Zeitler last year. But I'm going to take the Colts here because I believe in Andrew Luck that he can elevate this team over a Bengals team that's just still the same to me. Like, it's still amazing that Marvin Lewis got a 2-year extension to remain with the team. But really, the Bengals really didn't make that many big, splash additions to me that said, okay, the Bengals are going to be a genuine playoff team. I think they can be a playoff contender just because of the division. But if you really look at their team, they just basically re-added some, they re-signed very good pieces, and they're hoping for some of their young guys to be productive, like Cody Core, Tyler Boyd, or any of those guys. They let Brandon LaFell go because he really couldn't find a role. But yeah, I just look at that Bengals team, and I'm not really impressed. Also, Vontaze Burfict is going to be suspended for this game, which is a huge blow for them. I know for the Colts, you could say, well, the Colts really didn't do anything that much either. They got a bunch of draft picks by trading away the 3rd pick. They signed Eric Ebron to pair up with Jack Doyle. They let Frank Gore go, so Marlon Mack and Christian, I think it's Wilkins, and I know it's not the Clemson guy, but another Christian Wilkins who they're going to be the 2 starting running backs. They let Dante Moncrief go. They brought in Ryan Grant, who's probably going to be their number 2. You have T.Y. Hilton still there. But yeah, this game for me is basically just saying Andrew Luck is back, he's healthy, and I trust Andrew Luck enough against this type of Bengals team that even though it is more talented, he will be able to carry this team in a good game or in a big game against the Bengals. Think of it this way, right? Jacoby Brissett last year in Cincinnati. If he doesn't throw a pick six, he could have beaten the Bengals with most of that roster they had now in order to win that game. So with Andrew Luck returning as the solidified starter, I feel like with this Colts team that he'll be able to pull this game out on his arm against a average to a mediocre to average team like the Cincinnati Bengals, in my opinion. It should be a good game, and honestly, with Andrew Luck, he's still showing the preseason that he can hold on to the ball a little bit too long, and he still might have a little bit of rust to him. So if the Bengals can get to him and make him cause an interception too, the Bengals can win this game. But I'm going to trust that Andrew Luck is ready. He's at home. He's motivated, and this Colts team is on his left arm, and I'm going to trust that more so than the Bengals team in this situation. So that's why I get Indianapolis here -3 and Indianapolis straight up. Next game, the Titans over the Dolphins. This one to me, like this was just something where the Titans, they're the one team through the offseason that I'm still not impressed. Like I'm not impressed with. I remember last year, if anybody had been watching my videos, I affectionately called the Tennessee Titans white toast with butter. And after this year, I know they added Malcolm Butler, they added Dion Lewis, they re-signed Rashard Matthews to a one-year deal. They drafted Rashaan Evans from Alabama. They have Adoree Jackson coming into his second year. They're hoping that Taywan Taylor can have a big year. They have Corey Davis, hoping he can extend. But I just look at the Titans overall. They're going to get Jack Conklin back at the right tackle spot. They re-signed Taylor Lewan, the largest offensive tackle deal in the NFL right now. But I still look at the Titans as a team that I'm not impressed with. Like, I just look at their core and go, okay, the defense is pretty solid from Arakpo to Wesley Woodyard to Casey, even to Byard and Butler and Searcy, who's going to be there. Even though Cyprian blowing out his knee is huge for them. That's no small fault there. But I look at the Titans and go, I'm just not impressed offensively enough. I think they're going to try to run the ball, and if hopefully Conklin can, stay healthy. But Mariota, he's not really going to be throwing to anybody great besides Delaney Walker, and I'm just not impressed with them. But with that being said, they're playing a Miami team that is, in my opinion, one of the two worst teams in the NFL. You look at that Miami roster. Let's see. They lost Jay Ajayi. They lost Jarvis Landry. Ryan Tannehill now is coming back. But they also lost Mike Pouncey. They let go of Tony Lippett. They let go of the Ndamukong Suh. They brought in Robert Quinn. They still have Cameron Wake, who's up there in age, but he's still productive. But really, the Miami cornerbacks are not that impressive. The Miami running backs are going to be Kenyon Drake and Frank Gore. The Miami offensive line really isn't that impressive. Maybe unless you want to say Tunsil. They brought in Danny Amendola. Like, this team is not very good overall talent-wise. And look, I'll admit, I remember I said last year I would have taken Jay Cutler over Ryan Tannehill. I was wrong about that. But Ryan Tannehill, even if he wins, even now with this completely depleted roster, with Devontae Parker having his history as being a bust, you have No Landry, who's their most effective player. They're going to have Mike Gesicki as their starting tight end, the Penn State guy. So good luck to him. This team is not going to be that good. And also, the Titans are going to be motivated because last year, when Mariota was out for that game, they shouldn't have lost that game against the Dolphins, but they did. But they lost a clunker of a game. Was it like 20-10 or 13-10 Dolphins over Titans? So those Titans are going to be motivated to try to show this Dolphin team that they're not that good, and they got lucky. And it's one of those things, again, I think the Titans will play a consistent, solid game, and I think the Titans defense will shut down the Dolphins offense pretty effectively, and they'll probably win something like, I would say, 21 or 20 or 21-10. I think they could put up 21 points, and that defense can shut down the Dolphins offense, which is very little, besides Kenyon Drake. This game I'm really not that excited for. I think it's going to be a clunker. I think Adam Gase is out the door. And for Mike Vrabel, it's going to be nice to get a win, but just of how that offense is going, and I could be dead wrong. Shout out to Keith Bailey. Hopefully, they're wrong about this. But yeah, I look at this game as just an absolute clunker. But I'm going to take the Titans here. More consistent team. They have talent. They have a good enough defense to shut down the Dolphins' offense enough to say, okay, if you put up about 17, 21 points, that should be enough to win this game. So that's why I like Tennessee are -1 and Tennessee straight up. Next game, the Vikings over the Niners. This is one of those games that, like, my head is telling me to take Minnesota. Like I said, I have them in my top 4 in the NFC in terms of Super Bowl contenders. It's the Eagles, the Rams, the Saints, and the Vikings in that order. And I know the Vikings are one of the more talented teams, top to bottom, in terms of offensive line. Though they've had a couple offensive line injuries to look for. I think their center's out for the year, and then another one of their guards is out for an extended amount of time. They're going to get Dalvin Cook back, which is huge to pair him up with Latavius Murray. You have Stephon Diggs re-signed to a 5-year contract. Thielen signed long-term. And they brought in Captain Kirk Cousins for $84 guaranteed million. And everybody in the NFL is ecstatic that Kirk Cousins got that money, all those players. But I think the Vikings made a mistake. Kirk Cousins is not worth $84 million fully guaranteed. This guy is an underachiever, or he's an overconfident underachiever. Just of how his history's been. Remember, this is the guy that made Devon Kennard famous by him getting his only 2 interceptions in his career in the last game of the year. This is a guy that for every Rams game, he beat the Rams in LA week 2. He beat the Seahawks in a big come-from-behind victory against them in week 6, even though Blair Walsh missed 2 field goals in the Blair Witch Project basically cost the Seahawks the game. And they had that huge lead over New Orleans. And yet, okay, and I could argue, yeah, that game is not really on his fault, but he did cause the one intentional grounding play that got him out of field goal range to ice that game. But, the Vikings made that decision, and kudos to him. Can't complain about that. But you look at that defense, basically, Danielle Hunter got an extension. They brought in Sheldon Richardson. They brought in Mike Hughes to help with the secondary. Terrence Newman is now going to be coaching them in the secondary with that. They still have Harrison Smith there. They still the Anthony Barr situation still surprises me. They didn't get a long-term deal done with him, but I do think that is something that they have to work on throughout this offseason or through the season to be more effective. But this Vikings team is just too talented for me to not pick against the Niners, who made some decent moves themselves. They drafted Mike McGlinchey, the guy from Notre Dame, number 11 overall. They re-signed Jimmy G to a 5-year, $135 million contract, and he was the highest paid quarterback for about 20 days. They brought him in. They brought in Richard Sherman. They traded for some other offensive linemen from New England. They signed Marquise Goodwin to an extension. Like, they have a decent, core roster. But one of the big things that kind of made me not want to pick the Niners this week was the fact that Jerick McKinnon just 2 days ago blew his knee out on a non-contact cut in practice, and he was going to be their primary back. He signed a 4-year, $30 million contract earlier this offseason. So now it's going to be Matt Breida and Alfred Morris being the primary running back duo for this team. This is one of those things where I like Jimmy Garoppolo. I think the Patriots made a mistake by letting him go somewhere. I would have tried to move Brady because I think Jimmy Garoppolo still could have been a very good quarterback. Not Brady, but very good for the next 10 years, while Brady, I think, is at a year-to-year basis, and you could probably only get three really good years out of him at this point. But the thing with Jimmy Garoppolo is this, and the Niners, they have a lot of good talent, and they're motivated. They won 5 straight games last year, even though, to be fair, they beat a Deshaun Watson-less Texan team. They beat the Titans, who were the white bread team, which really wasn't impressive. They beat the backups of the Rams, and they beat the Bears off the last-second field goal by Robbie Gould. So the only really impressive one they have is against Jacksonville. So, they really haven't really impressed many people by that stretch. This is a very good Viking team. I think the Niners, if they want to make a statement, should try to be competitive. And I think that's why I'm taking them against the spread. I think they're going to show that, yeah, they can compete against these very good teams. But this Vikings team, as much as I'm not a Kirk Cousins fan, he's got way too much talent around him, offensively and defensively, not to be able to pull this game out with his skill. So that's why I like San Francisco +6, but Minnesota straight up. The next game, the Patriots over the Texans. This one is basically like Pittsburgh Cleveland. The Houston Texans only have one franchise win against the Patriots since 2002. That was Week 17 of the 2009 or 10 season when they won the game and Bernard Pollard famously blew out Wes Welker's knee. I'm taking New England here because, they're just the Patriots. I guess I'll put it that way. I know a lot of people are going to be going like, man, look at Tom Brady's receiving core. He had Eric Decker retire. They cut Jordan Matthews. They cut Kenny Britt. They cut 3 guys, at their receiving core. Julian Edelman suspended 4 games. Danny Amendola is gone. Nate Solder went to the Giants. Deion Lewis went to the Titans. Malcolm Butler went to the Titans. Basically, the Patriots, existence as we know it is on the fringe of breaking. As much as everybody wants to believe that, and maybe there are signs of that, I'm going to just trust the Patriot way here against the Houston Texan team that, yeah, they're going to be motivated too. They're going to get a lot of talent back themselves. Remember, they're getting J.J. Watt back. And even if J.J. Watt is not the J.J. Watt of old, he's still probably better than the 80-85% of the league at this point, even coming off the back and blown patella injury that he suffered the last 2 years. You're going to get Tyrann Mathieu coming in for that defense. You have Jonathan Badamosi coming in, which would be a huge, decent safety there. Andre Howell with his cancer, I wish him well, but that's a little bit of a loss there. They have Dylan Cole. They're going to have Whitney Merciless coming back in a huge way. So that Texan team is going to be very good. And I would tell people right now they are, in my opinion, the 3rd best team in the AFC. The sneaky, dark horse pick for the Super Bowl. And that is because I have enough faith in Deshaun Watson to basically stay on track and play pretty much like he did the last 6 games, the first 6 games of his career. But I'm going to take the Patriots here because I've seen that Patriots defense. Brian Flores looks like he's doing a really good job. He's brought a new kind of identity to it, and I think he'll actually end up doing a better job than what Matt Patricia did. And he just brings a new perspective to it. They're going to have Sony Michel running along with James White, which will be effective. They will have Rob Gronkowski back, which will be big. And I just think, again, Tom Brady in these big moments, it's a home game. He knows what happened last year with the Kareem Hunt game. I don't think he wants to do that 2 years in a row. It's a daylight game, so he can just get it out of the way. And I think the Patriots are going to be motivated to prove to everybody that, all this Patriot drama, all this Patriot frustration, it's not as bad as it seems, and they'll continue to move on. So that's why I like New England here -6.5, but that's why I like New England here -6.5, and New England straight up. The next game, Jacksonville over New York. The biggest reason why I'm taking Jacksonville is I'm going to trust the defense here. I think the defense outdoes the offense in this game. And that's what I have to rely on, because you look at the New York Giants offense, it's a pretty decent, offensive roster. You have the number 2 overall pick in Saquon Barkley. You have the number 2 pick in Saquon Barkley coming in. They brought in Nate Solder, like I said before, from the Patriots. They drafted Will Hernandez. They're going to get Odell Beckham Jr. back, the highest paid wide receiver in NFL history at 5 years, $95 million. They have Sterling Shepard coming back, who's been a decent receiver for them. You're going to get Evan Ingram there, who was actually a pretty good rookie tight end. They're probably the best rookie tight end out of all of them. And then on the defense, you got Landon Collins. You have Jack Rabbit. You have Eli Apple getting a clean slate. And I just, this Giants team is not bad on paper. I just think it all comes back down to Eli and how effective he can be. At this point, he's kind of like a Joe Flacco type where, he has his ring, but statistically he doesn't do it as much for people anymore. And that's going to be the issue there, because they have the talent to work the offense. and they have some decent talent defensively. Though trading JPP was a little bit of a surprise, but getting Alec Ogletree back will help that defense a lot. And they also re-signed Connor Barwin, which I assume will take Jason Pierre-Paul's spot on the other side to Olivier Vernon. They still have Snacks Harrison. But I'm going to take the Jags here because I think this Jags team, you know what, they love being this underdog type of mentality. And true, they lost. They let the Double-A battery go, and Allen Robinson going to Chicago, and Allen Hurns going to Dallas. They let Mercedes Lewis go to Green Bay. They lost Marquise Lee already. They signed Dante Moncrief. You have Jaden Mickens and Keelan Cole. So basically, it's a bunch of nobodies that nobody knows about a receiving core. But I think they like that story, and I think they personally like that. They like saying, "Hey, nobody respects the Jags." Even though we went 10-6 last year, we won our first division title in about what since '05? Yeah, I think since '05. Yeah, we won our first division since '05. We have one of the better defenses. Basically, our defense is still intact. We brought in the one guy from Alabama at safety. We brought in DJ Chark at receiver at LSU. Like, we're going to have they're trying to say, like, hey, look, we still got a decent team. And as much as you want to brag on Blake Bortles can do enough of a job with Leonard Fournette to win this game. And that's what I'm saying. When you look at this game, it's basically saying, who do you trust more? Do you trust the Jacksonville defense to shut down the Giants offense, or do you trust the Giants offense to put enough in the Jacksonville defense? In this game, I'm going to take the Jacksonville defense. I don't know how Odell's going to do against Ramsey. I think it's going to be a fun matchup to watch. But I trust Boyer on the other side. You have Gibson and you have Gibson and Church, and you have the other safety that they drafted. And somebody, if someone could look it up, the safety was Ronnie Hairston. There we go. Ronnie Hairston. That's his name. Ronnie Hairston. You still have the front seven still intact. And I'm just going to trust this Jacksonville team that, has a great formula to win on the road in order to win this game. And last year, I'm going to pull out a thing last year. Basically, if you look at every odd week, the Jaguars seemed to play really well and win games. Every even week, they were a little bit shaky. And I think with their schedule, we're playing the Giants and Patriots. I'm going to go with that formula and say they get the even win, they get the odd wins, and the even losses so far with their schedule. And I'm going to trust the defense here to shut down the Giants' offense enough to let Blake Bortles and them put up about 23 points to win the game. So that's why I like Jacksonville or -3 and the Giants. This is why I like Jacksonville or -3 and Jacksonville straight up. The next game, the Ravens over Buffalo. This one is basically, to me, it all comes down to Buffalo. I said Miami was one of the two worst teams in the NFL. The other worst team was the Buffalo Bills. I really look at the Buffalo Bills, and I don't see really anything that impressive. You have Kelvin Benjamin, Zay Jones, and Shady McCoy. They let their left tackle go. Kyle Williams is dealing with a knee injury. Richie Incognito retired. And they have Nathan Peterman, the 5-interception guy in 1.5 game, starting. I'm actually happy about that because I was really thinking they were going to start Josh Allen, especially when they traded A.J. McCarron to Oakland for a 5th-round pick. But I like Peterman starting because even though Peterman, people are going to say, well, he completed, 80% of his passes. He threw for the most yards in the preseason. In this instance, for Nathan Peterman, it's the preseason. Nathan Peterman only has about 2.5 games under his belt and 2 starts. Even though, again, he did beat Brissett in the Snow Bowl in week 15, which is somewhat amazing still. But yeah, so I'm taking Baltimore here. My team, we have Alec Collins. We have a decent roster. Our strength is in our defense. We still have Jimmy Smith, we have Jimmy Smith, even though he's not going to be there this game. But we have Eric Weddle. We have Suggs. We have Mosley. We have a very good defense, and I think with our offensive line, Marshall Yonda should be back. We have Michael Crabtree, a credible veteran receiver. We have John Brown as a burner. We have Nick Boyle as a tight end who's not bad. He's not Pitta, but the Hayden Hurst is going to be out for week 1. He suffered a knee injury. And it's just one of those things with the Ravens that I just trust this Ravens team as a whole. They're more talented. They're more experienced. We have a better kicker in Justin Tucker. And I honestly just think with the Bills, what they're going out with quarterback, what they're putting out there offensively, I think if we can shut down LaShawn McCoy with our defense, which will be a little tough because he is LaShawn McCoy, but I have enough confidence in the Ravens to say that the Ravens should be able to win this game. But I'm going to do it at +7 because this Ravens offense, we're not really an offensive-driven team, and I could definitely see this being a low-scoring game that keeps it within 7 points. So that's why I like Baltimore here, straight up, but Buffalo +7. Then the next game, the Chargers over the Chiefs. This is the year for the LA Chargers to do something. Really, this is the year that the LA Chargers can do something. They have the most talent out of all these rosters and the fewest questions. Okay, the only problem that you could say about the Chargers is they've already been bit by the injury bug 3 or 4 times already. Let's see. Hunter Henry blew his knee out. Jason Verrett tore his Achilles. Another one of their tight ends blew their knee out, and then they had another big injury, which I can't think of right now. But they've already had 4 significant injuries for this team. But they just brought back 38-year-old Antonio Gates for probably his final season as a Charger, so that was kind of a great moment. And if you're a cynical Charger fan, that was karma for having Henry start over Antonio Gates. But if Nick Novak or whoever they have at kicker can make some good kicks, they are the clear favorite to win this division for the first time since 2009. Yeah, I'd probably say since 2009. This is the first year the Chargers are this much ahead of the Raiders, the Broncos, and the Chiefs. And it's also a big moment for the Chargers because they can finally get this Chief monkey off their back they've had for the last 5 years. They've lost 10 to 12 straight games against them. Unbelievable, over the last several years. The Chiefs, they're an interesting team to me because I look at the Chiefs as a team that, look, you have Kareem Hunt, you have Tyreek, you have Sammy, you have Travis, you have a decent offensive line, and it's a good enough offense to be effective. But the problem is I can't trust Patrick Mahomes. I think, Alex Smith had a career year, but I knew he was going to get traded or go because you don't spend as much capital as the Chiefs did a couple years ago to get a guy like Patrick Mahomes and have him sit for 2 years. So, this is his team, and he showed in the preseason that, look, he's like a wild horse. He's got a rocket of an arm, and people are going to remember that long bomb he threw to Tyreek Hill in Atlanta that made it look effortless. And, yeah, basically Alex Smith can't make deep throws look that effortless. However, he also made a lot of, almost key interception throws, and just he has that gunslinger mentality that we don't know how that's going to translate, or we don't know if he can control his gunslinging. But also I think the difference for me is that even though the Chargers defense, losing Verrett, who's the Derrick Rose of NFL cornerbacks, a talented corner, but every time he touches the football field, he gets punched in the knee, or every time he makes contact with the field, he breaks and dislocates something, just kind of like Derrick Rose did in the later part of his career. But you look at the Chargers defense, even though they're dealing with that, the Chiefs defense, look, they lost Marcus Peters, which is huge. They lost their leader in the middle, Derek Johnson. Tamba Ali's gone. They're going to get Eric Berry back, which will be significant, but if you're going to have Orlando Scandrick and Kendall Fuller as your starting corners, that's not as effective. And I like Orlando. Orlando's put up a decent career, but I just can't trust that. But I'm going to take the Chargers here because I look at them as just a more complete team. They're at home. They have the momentum, and they just have a lot more going for them. And also Daniel Sorensen just made the IR, and that's why the Chiefs just today had to re-sign Ron Parker, who they released back in March, but I guess they got him on a reduced deal. But I just like the Chargers here, more complete team. They have the motivation. They don't have any questions, and I just don't know how Patrick Mahomes is going to do in his first start. I think he can be somewhat effective, but he won't put up a good enough game, even with Kareem Hunt's help, to be effective enough to beat this LA Charger team. So that's why I like the LA Chargers here -3 and the LA Chargers straight up. Next game, the Seahawks over the Broncos. This, to me, is really hard because I'm going against the Seattle effect of the road here by taking them in this game. But there's just a part of me where, I probably will regret it by the end, going, they're going to be in Denver. If you look at Seattle's road history, look, they lost games to Tennessee on the road. They lost a game to Cincinnati on the road over the last couple of years. They lost to New Orleans on the road when they weren't good. They have this weird history of just going on the road and not being able to pull out, games. But I look at Seattle here, and I'm just going to trust Russell Wilson with what he has around offensively. He has Doug Baldwin. He has Brandon Marshall. He's going to have Nick Varnett. I know maybe that's not impressive, but maybe Varnett can do something. The offensive line, he does have a more effective left tackle in Dwayne Brown, who signed a 3-year extension with the team. You have Justin Britt there, who's still pretty solid. And defensively, I guess the biggest problem defensively is that Earl Thomas is likely not going to play week 1 because they can't get a contract extension done with him, which blows my mind. But, it's Seattle, and maybe, like Earl said, that basically he took the pay cuts because, he wanted to make sure everybody else was paid on the Legion of Boom defense. But after Richard Sherman goes to San Francisco, Cam Chancellor retires, KJ Wright's hurt, Cliff Averill gets cut, Byron Maxwell left. That Legion of Boom is no more, and it's basically Earl and Bobby and a bunch of other different people. Though I do want to tell people, watch Shaquem Griffin. He'll be a great story, and he'll likely start this week with KJ Wright's injury. But I'm going to take Seattle here because I'm going to trust Russell Wilson. They don't have a key to leave anymore, so it's really just Chris Harris on one guy and then Bradley Roby, who have a big opportunity to try to prove to be the number 2 corner. The safeties aren't as effective, and honestly, I just think Russell Wilson, in this kind of situation, I think he'll be able to make a play or 2 more against this Denver defense than I think Case Keenum will against Seattle. I know Case Keenum is an easier matchup, but Case Keenum, this is his first big start of his entire career where he is the man firmly and handily in a situation where they are trying to win a decent amount of football games. And I just don't think, as much as I want to root for Keenum, I don't think he gets the job done this first time around against this team, which will make the Chad Kelly calls that much greater going on after this week. I think it'll be a competitive game, and honestly, I would not be surprised if Denver wins this game just because of everything I said about Seattle. But I'm going to trust Seattle here to pull off this victory. If they can't do this in this situation, they play Chicago on Monday night the week after. If Chicago plays well enough against Green Bay, I'll probably end up taking Chicago on a Monday night game next week when they go to Chicago. But that's why I like Seattle here +3 and Seattle straight up. Next game, Washington over Arizona. This one to me, maybe it's just my own frustration because honestly, the Cardinals, they have more defensive talent. You got Budda Baker, Peterson, Jones. You have Robert Condici. You have a more talented defense. They're going to get David Johnson back. They have Larry Fitzgerald. They have Christian Kirk. The tight end's still a little shaky in Arizona, and maybe Arizona just as a pure team is a full hole. Maybe it's just my own personal spite, but honestly, with Sam Bradford starting at quarterback, I'm going to trust Alex Smith with the lesser talent he has around him to be a better quarterback and to lead the Redskins to victory over the Arizona Cardinals. Because I just don't trust Sam Bradford. I've never liked Sam Bradford, and I just look at this team. I think if he gets hit by Ryan Kerrigan or Jonathan Allen, in some good way he'll be out, and Josh Rosen will be in for his first start. And I think Rosen can do okay. We'll see. But there's a part of me just saying that Sam Bradford in these kind of big spots, he's always kind of had a weird week 1 history. The last time he played in week 1, he had a great game, but also he hurt his knee, and just something where I'm going to trust Alex Smith's effectiveness and his ability to make plays to Jordan Reed, who's going to be healthy for week 1 because it's week 1. But Jordan Reed, Paul Richardson, Josh Dotson, that he can make enough effective plays, and Sam Bradford will make 1 or 2 mistakes that'll get the Redskins this victory in a close game. This game and the other game I would say that's equally matched up would probably be like this one, Titans, Dolphins, Bengals, Colts. Those 3 games are like basically even to me, where I wouldn't be surprised if either team wins. I'm just going off of what I think will be the best option. So that's why I like Washington here against the spread to pick them and Washington straight up. The next game, the Panthers over the Cowboys. The Panthers are going through a lot of problems on their offensive line. Ryan Kalil is retiring. Matt Kalil has been put on the IR to return. They just had to trade for another left tackle from another team. You have Darrell Williams coming back from an injury. You have, Thomas Davis maybe playing his final year. You have the Panthers gaining, Dontari Poe. Their receiving core still isn't that impressive. Jonathan Stewart go to the Giants, so basically it's Christian McCaffrey's and C.J. Anderson's team to run. And you just look at the Panthers kind of in that same spot of this team is not going to be it shouldn't be as good as they are going to be. But with the Panthers, they're playing one of the worst teams in the NFC in the Dallas Cowboys, probably the worst team in the NFC, Cowboys, who have really nothing going for them. I think this is going to be an absolute slaughter. I don't see Dallas's offense. If they put enough guys in the box, they're going to put 8 or 9 in the box against Zeke. He's going to get shut down. And Dak, who's going to have Deontay Thompson and Allen Hurns and Jarwin to throw to a tight end. They're not going to have Frederick probably week 1. Martin's dealing with an injury. Lyle Collins was dealing with an injury at practice. This team is way too dysfunctional right now. And of how that defense is going, yeah, they have some okay pieces, but I think Cam with his ability will be able to make plays. I think DJ Moore from Maryland will be able to make some big plays, and hopefully he'll become a big-time receiver for them. They're going to have Greg Olsen to deal with, which will be a problem. And honestly, with Dallas's mentality right now, they also let go of their kicker, which could come to bite them at the end. I'm going to take the Panthers here pretty easily, just because I feel like Dallas just doesn't really have anything going for them. And of how they looked in the preseason, there's really nothing that inspires me that give me confidence for that either. So that's why I like Carolina here, -2.5, and Carolina straight up. Next game, the Packers over the Bears. This to me is basically just like Indianapolis, Cincinnati. I'm going off the Aaron Rodgers effect here. I know the Bears fans are ecstatic because they traded away 2 first-round picks, a 4th and a 6th-round pick for former Oakland Raiders defensive end Khalil Mack, and he will make that Bears defense much better right away. And you have a Bears defense which will be one of the top half, if not top 10 defenses in the NFL this year if they all can stay healthy. And you also look at the Bears, they added guys like Trey Burton, tight end. They added Taylor Gabriel and Allen Robinson, a wide receiver. They have Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen. They re-signed Charles Leno. They have Akeem Hicks on defense. And I will tell everybody this right now. Vic Fangio, the Chicago defensive coordinator, will be a head coach in the NFL this time next year. With that defense of how effective he is going to be, I think he will get a head coaching job next year by somebody. That's how big a fan I am of him. But with that being said, and as much as the Bears may have a better, pure talented team across the board, they don't have Rodgers. He just got paid the highest quarterback contract in NFL history, and I think he will not disappoint against this Bears team, who's still young in their first big moment in Sunday Night Football. And I don't think they'll be able to respond adequately enough to win this game against Green Bay in Green Bay. It's going to be a great game, and I'm motivated for the Bears because I think this Bears team, if they can show something, they will be a sneaky playoff team, and they're kind of in a San Francisco situation that if you see the Bears play and they can get more wins, they can be definitely a playoff sneaky team. And maybe, if not, if you believe that Trubisky can improve with Matt Nagy and Mark Helfrich a coordinator, maybe even a Super Bowl team. But we'll have to see first, and let's go through week 1 for that. So that's why I like Chicago here, +7.5, because I'm going to trust that Bears defense to make the game close, but Green Bay straight up. Next game, the Lions over the Jets. This game is just something with the Lions. The Lions are kind of like the Titans to me. The Lions should be able to win this game. They made some decent moves, getting LeGarrette Blount, getting Kerryon Johnson, getting a couple other offensive linemen, which will be effective. And honestly, with the Jets, they're starting Sam Darnold. Good luck to him. Maybe he'll have to start like the last USC quarterback they had starting as a first-round pick, even though Sam Darnold was taken 2 picks higher. Maybe that'll be a good thing because I remember Sanchez went 2-0 in his first starts. And it'd be a pretty big win for the Jets to get, to get 1-0 over the Lions. But I'm taking the Lions here. They're more consistent. And it's kind of like the same thing with the Titans, in my opinion. The Titans and Lions are just good teams that you're not really disappointed by them, but you're not really impressed by them. And when they play these bad teams, you just look at the two teams and go, look, the Lions are not going to be good enough to beat the Rams, or the Titans will not be good enough to beat the Patriots or even the Steelers. But if you put them up against the bad teams, they're a pretty solid bet to win. And it's less than a 7-point spread, and I think the Lions are that much better than the Jets at this point. If the Jets can be competitive, they'll take that. First game, Monday Night Football for the kid, it'll be tough. But I like the Lions here minus 6.5, and the Lions straight up. And finally, the Rams over the Raiders. With Khalil Mack leaving, it made it that much easier. Here was why I took the Rams as easily. This Rams team is, like I said, the second best team in the NFC behind the Philadelphia Eagles. If the Raiders are playing a Rams team with Aaron Donald against a Raider team without Khalil Mack, that is too easy enough for me to take the Rams to win this game. They're going to smother the Raiders' offensive line, in my opinion, and I don't even think with the Raiders' defense, even if the Raiders can move a little bit offensively, I think the Rams can move twice as fast on the Raiders' defense, which I believe will be one of the worst in the league this year, or definitely this year, because they don't really have any other playmaker besides Khalil Mack, unless you want to call Bruce Irvin one, but that's debatable. So that's all, like the LA Rams are -5 and the LA Rams straight up. So that's it. So those are my picks and thoughts on each game. Like, comment, rate, subscribe. Well, yeah, please, if you have any questions, let me know about any of the picks or just any general football questions. I'd love to answer them from all the fans, and I'm happy to be back. So that's it. So until next week, this is Matt the NFL Fanatic signing off. Until then, so long.